The giant space station turned slowly around the planet Nexus Prime. It was bigger than most cities and held the most important military school in the galaxy. Ships from hundreds of worlds brought their best young people here to learn how to be soldiers and officers. The Galactic Defense Coalition Academy was where dreams came to die, or where legends were born. Alex Carter pressed his face against the transport window as their ship got closer to the station. He was 19 years old and had left Earth 3 months ago. His brown hair was cut short like military rules said it should be. His hands shook a little as he watched the massive docking bays get bigger and bigger. 12 humans had been picked for this program out of thousands who tried. Alex knew he was lucky to be here, but he also knew that luck would not help him pass. The transport docked with a loud clang that made everyone jump. Alex picked up his single bag and followed the other new students down the metal hallway. The air smelled like oil and recycled oxygen. Everything was gray metal and bright white lights that hurt his eyes. This place was built for war, not comfort. In the main hall, Alex saw aliens for the first time in his life. There were tall blue ones, with 4 arms and skin that looked like armor. Short green ones with big eyes walked in groups. Some looked like giant insects with wings folded on their backs. Others had fur or scales or things Alex had no name for. He tried not to stare, but it was hard. These beings had been traveling between stars for thousands of years while humans were still figuring out fire. The human students stayed together without anyone telling them to. There was Ben Murphy from New York, a big guy who used to play football. Lisa Grant from California had the highest test scores of any human. Joe Parker was from Texas and never stopped talking about how great everything was back home. The others seemed nice enough, but Alex could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew they did not belong here. General Crex Valdrin walked into the hall and everything went quiet. He was 9 feet tall and had to duck under some of the lights. His 4 arms moved like he was always ready to fight. His skin was dark, blue, and looked harder than rock. Yellow eyes looked at each group of students like he was deciding which ones to eat first. When those eyes found the humans, they stopped and stayed there. The general started talking in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. He said the academy was where the weak learned to serve the strong. He said that some species were born to lead and others were born to follow. He talked about the old days when his people ruled their part of space because they were stronger than everyone else. Alex noticed that some of the alien students were nodding along. Others looked uncomfortable. When Valdrin looked right at the human group, his mouth turned up in what might have been a smile on a human face. On his face, it looked like a threat. He said that this year they had some very special new students. He said humans were famous for their creativity and their ability to survive. But he said those things in a way that made it clear he thought humans were weak and stupid. After the speech, students were shown to their rooms. Alex got a small metal box with a bed, a desk, and a tiny bathroom. The walls were bare except for a screen that showed academy rules and schedules. His neighbor was a Thrixian named Zach, who looked like a praying mantis if praying mantises were 6 feet tall and wore clothes. Zach did not seem interested in talking. The first day of training started at 5 in the morning with physical conditioning. Alex had worked out every day for 2 years to get ready for this, but he was still the slowest one running around the track. The Zephyrians with their 4 arms could do twice as many push-ups. The Brutari were so strong they bent the exercise equipment. Even the small green aliens could jump higher and run faster than any human. General Valdrin watched everything from a platform above the training area. Whenever a human student fell behind or made a mistake, he would make notes on a tablet. When Lisa could not finish the rope climb, he announced to everyone that humans clearly had not evolved for real physical work. When Ben struggled with the balance beam, Valdrin said that humans were too clumsy for real combat. The academic classes were different. Alex found that he could keep up with most of the other students in subjects like military history and tactics. Humans might not be the strongest or fastest, but they could think and plan as well as anyone. The problem was that thinking and planning did not seem to matter much at this academy. During the first week, small incidents started happening. Someone put itching powder in Joe's uniform. Lisa found her study materials thrown around her room. Ben's combat gear was broken right before an important exercise. When the humans complained, the instructors said they could not prove who did it. The message was clear. Humans were on their own here. General Valdrin made his feelings more obvious. Every day, during combat training, he would pair human students against much bigger and stronger opponents. When humans got hurt, he said it was because they were not trying hard enough. When they won by using smart tactics instead of strength, he said, they were cheating and being cowardly. Alex started paying attention to everything Valdrin did. He watched how the general moved, how he talked, how he reacted when things did not go his way. The general was big and scary, but Alex noticed that he got angry when people did not do what he expected. He also noticed that Valdrin never actually fought anyone himself. He just ordered other people around and acted tough. The other alien. Students were starting to pick sides. Some thought the humans were interesting and wanted to be friends. Others decided that if General Valdrin said humans were weak, then humans must be weak. The academy was supposed to teach everyone to work together, but it was starting to feel more like a war between different groups. At night, Alex would lie in his small bed and think about home. Earth seemed very far away, and he wondered if he had made a huge mistake coming here. But then he would remember why he came. Humans needed to prove they belonged in space with all these other species. They needed to show that being different did not mean being less than everyone else. 3. Months into the program, Alex knew that something was going to have to change. The situation was getting worse every day, and soon someone was going to get seriously hurt. General Valdrin was not going to stop his harassment, and the academy administration was not going to help. If humans wanted respect, they were going to have to earn it the hard way. Alex made a decision that night that would change everything. He was going to find a way to make General Valdrin respect humans, even if it meant putting himself in danger. He did not know how yet, but he knew that someone had to stand up and fight back. The question was not whether he was strong enough or fast enough. The question was whether he was smart enough to find a way to win. The problem started getting worse after the first month. Ben Murphy woke up one morning to find his combat suit had been cut with something sharp. The cuts were small but in all the right places to make the suit fall apart during training. When he reported it to the duty officer, they said it must have been an accident. Ben knew better. Lisa Grant found her personal tablet broken on her desk 3 days later. Someone had smashed the screen and deleted all her study notes. The memory chip was missing too, which meant months of work was gone. She had backups, but getting new equipment took weeks of paperwork. The person who did it knew exactly how to hurt her the most. Joe Parker had the worst luck of all. During a live fire exercise with energy weapons, his rifle exploded in his hands. The safety systems kept him from getting killed. But he spent 2 days in the medical bay with burns on his arms. The investigation said the weapon had a manufacturing defect. Joe said someone had messed with the power cell, but nobody listened to him. Every human student had something bad happen to them. Equipment broke at the worst times. Personal belongings went missing. Food got contaminated right before big tests. The pattern was clear to anyone who wanted to see it, but the academy staff said they could not prove anything. General Valdrin just smiled whenever humans complained about their bad luck. The training got harder too. Valdrin changed the combat exercises to make them more dangerous for humans. Instead of practice weapons, he started using real ones with low power settings. Instead of protective gear, he said real soldiers had to learn to take hits. Instead of fair matches, he put humans against opponents who were twice their size and 3 times as strong. Alex watched it all happen and felt anger building up inside him. But he also watched Valdrin and the other aliens carefully. He noticed things that the other humans missed. The general always got angry when students used tactics he did not expect. He liked it when people fought the way he thought they should fight. When someone did something clever or unexpected, Valdrin would change the rules to make sure it did not work again. The alien students were split into groups now. The Zephyrians followed Valdrin because he was one of them, and because they believed in his ideas about strength. The Brutari liked him because he let them hurt other students during combat practice. The insect-like Thrixians stayed neutral because they were smart enough to see trouble coming. Some of the smaller alien species tried to be friendly with the humans. They knew what it felt like to be picked on by bigger, stronger beings. But they were scared to help too much because they did not want to become targets themselves. Alex understood this, but it still hurt to see potential friends walk away when humans needed help. The breaking point came during a zero-gravity combat exercise. The Academy had a special room where they could turn off artificial gravity to simulate fighting in space. Students wore magnetic boots and had to learn how to move and fight when there was no up or down. It was hard for everyone, but humans had the most trouble because they were used to having weight. Alex was paired against Thok, a Brutari who looked like a bear made of rocks. Thok was 7 feet tall and had bone spikes growing out of his knuckles. His thick hide could stop most punches, and his long arms could reach Alex from across the room. The rules said no permanent damage, but Thok seemed to have his own ideas about what that meant. The fight started badly for Alex. In zero gravity, his smaller size was even more of a problem, because he could not use leverage or footwork like he could on the ground. Thok grabbed him with one huge hand and threw him against the wall hard enough to crack Alex's helmet. The magnetic boots were the only thing that kept Alex from floating away helpless. Thok followed up with a punch that would have broken ribs if Alex had not twisted away at the last second. The bone spikes on Thok's knuckles tore through Alex's training suit and left bloody scratches on his arm. Alex tried to hit back, but his punches bounced off Thok's thick skin like raindrops. The other students were watching through the observation windows. Most of the aliens were cheering for Thok and laughing when Alex got hurt. A few looked uncomfortable, but nobody said anything. General Valdrin stood at the main observation post with his tablet, making notes and looking satisfied with how things were going. Alex got thrown against the wall 2 more times. His head was ringing and he could taste blood in his mouth. But something strange happened while he was getting beaten up. He started to notice things about how Thok moved and fought. The big alien was strong and tough, but he was not very smart about it. He used the same attacks over and over. He got tired quickly because he put too much power into every move. When Thok grabbed Alex for the 4th time, Alex did something different. Instead of trying to break free, he used Thok's own momentum to spin them both around. In zero gravity, this made Thok lose his balance and crash into the wall instead. For just a moment, Alex had the advantage. Alex managed to get behind Thok and put him in a chokehold. It was not enough to really hurt the big alien, but it showed that Alex could think and adapt even when he was losing. For 30 seconds, Alex actually had control of the fight. Then General Valdrin stopped the exercise. He said Alex was using improper techniques and that the match was invalid. He declared Thok the winner and gave Alex a failing grade for the day. When Alex tried to argue, Valdrin said that real warriors fought with honor, not with tricks. That night, all the human students met in Alex's room. They were angry and scared and tired of being treated like garbage. Some wanted to quit and go home to Earth. Others wanted to file complaints with the Coalition Council. A few talked about fighting back, but they all knew that would just make things worse. Alex had been thinking all day about what happened in the combat room. He realized that Valdrin had stopped the fight right when Alex started to win. The general did not want anyone to see that humans could beat aliens if they used their brains instead of just trying to be strong. Valdrin was scared of what might happen if humans stopped playing by his rules. Lisa brought up the Academy tournament that happened every year. It was a week-long competition between all the students with individual and team events. The winning species got the best job assignments when they graduated. More importantly, it was the one time when the rules allowed full-contact combat with almost no restrictions. Ben said the tournament was exactly what Valdrin wanted. It would be a chance for him to prove that humans were weak in front of the whole academy. Alex disagreed. He thought the tournament might be their only chance to show what humans could really do when they stopped trying to fight like aliens and started fighting like humans. The conversation went on for hours. Some students thought Alex was crazy to want to compete in something designed to make them look bad. Others were tired of being pushed around and wanted to fight back somehow. In the end, they decided to enter the tournament as a team and see what happened. Alex went to sleep that night with a plan forming in his mind. He had been studying every alien species at the academy for months. He knew their strengths and weaknesses, their fighting styles, and their biology. If humans were going to succeed here, they needed to stop trying to be something they were not and start being the best version of what they actually were. The tournament was still 2 months away. That gave Alex time to prepare something that would change everything. He just hoped he was smart enough to pull it off without getting himself or his friends killed in the process. The announcement came during morning assembly 2 months before the tournament. General Valdrin stood at the front of the main hall with a smile that made Alex's skin crawl. He said he had decided to personally train the human students for the competition. He claimed he wanted to give them every possible chance to succeed. Nobody believed that for a second. Alex knew this was going to be bad, but he had no idea how bad until the special training started. Valdrin pushed the human students, harder than anyone had ever been pushed before. The day began at 4 a.m. with a 10-mile run in full combat gear. Then came strength training with weights designed for aliens twice their size. Then combat practice against opponents who were told not to hold back. The general seemed to enjoy watching humans fail. When Joe collapsed during the endurance run, Valdrin made him get up and keep going until he threw up. When Lisa could not lift the heavy weights, he called her pathetic in front of everyone. When Ben tried to rest between exercises, Valdrin made him do push-ups until his arms gave out. But the worst part was the lectures. Every day, Valdrin would explain to the human students why they were going to lose the tournament. He said humans were too weak, too slow, too stupid to compete with real warriors. He said their species was a mistake that should have stayed on their little planet instead of trying to play with the grown-ups. The other alien students watched all this happen. Some looked uncomfortable, but most seemed to agree with what Valdrin was saying. The humans were clearly the weakest species at the academy. They could not run as fast or lift as much or fight as hard as anyone else. Maybe Valdrin was right about them. Alex endured all of this while studying everything he could about every species at the academy. He spent his free time in the library reading about alien biology and psychology. He learned about nerve clusters and pressure points. He found out which species had sensitive joints and which ones had weak spots in their armor-like skin. Most importantly, he learned about Valdrin himself. The general was a typical Zephyrian in many ways. His species had ruled their part of space for thousands of years through strength and intimidation. They were naturally bigger and stronger than most other species, and they used those advantages to stay in control. But Alex noticed something interesting about Valdrin during their training sessions. The general relied too much on his natural advantages. He had been stronger than everyone else for so long that he had stopped learning new techniques. His fighting style was basic and predictable. He used the same moves over and over because they had always worked before. When someone did something unexpected, he got angry and confused. Alex also noticed that Valdrin never actually fought anyone who might challenge him. He sparred with students who were much smaller and weaker than him. He gave orders from a safe distance during dangerous exercises. He talked about honor and combat, but he had not been in a real fight for years. He was like a bully who had gotten too comfortable picking on people who could not fight back. During the second week of special training, disaster struck. Valdrin decided to demonstrate proper fighting techniques by personally sparring with each human student. One by one, he easily defeated them while explaining what they were doing wrong. It was humiliating for the humans and entertaining for the alien spectators who came to watch. When Alex's turn came, he tried something different. Instead of trying to match Valdrin's strength, he focused on defense and movement. He dodged the general's attacks and tried to tire him out. This made Valdrin angry because it was not the kind of fight he expected. He started attacking harder and faster while yelling at Alex to stand and fight like a warrior. The match ended with Alex pinned to the ground while Valdrin lectured him about cowardice. But Alex had learned what he needed to know. The general was strong and fast, but he was also predictable. His anger made him sloppy. His overconfidence made him careless. Most importantly, he had weak points just like every other living being. That night, Alex made a decision that shocked everyone. He sent a formal challenge to General Valdrin through the Academy's official channels. According to the rules, any student could request a demonstration bout with an instructor for educational purposes. It was rarely done because most students were smart enough not to pick fights with their teachers. The challenge created a sensation throughout the academy. Word spread quickly among all the species about the upcoming fight. Most thought Alex had lost his mind. A few wondered if he had a plan. The human students were terrified that their friend was about to get himself killed in front of the entire school. General Valdrin accepted the challenge immediately. He could not refuse without looking weak in front of his supporters. Besides, he was looking forward to crushing this annoying human in front of everyone. It would be the perfect way to prove that humans had no place among real warriors. The demonstration bout was scheduled for the opening ceremony of the tournament. This meant that representatives from dozens of coalition worlds would be watching. Whatever happened in that arena would be seen by some of the most important military leaders in the galaxy. Alex knew he would only get one chance to prove that. Humans deserved respect. The weeks leading up to the fight were the hardest of Alex's life. Valdrin increased the intensity of training even more, trying to break the human students before the tournament began. Alex endured everything while continuing his research into alien anatomy and fighting techniques. He studied videos of Valdrin's old fights and learned the general's patterns and habits. Lisa tried to talk Alex out of the challenge. She said he was going to get hurt badly and that it would not prove anything. Ben agreed and said there had to be a better way to handle the situation. Joe just shook his head and said Alex was the bravest or stupidest person he had ever met. Alex understood their concerns, but he also knew that something had to change. Humans could not keep getting pushed around and humiliated. Someone had to stand up and fight back, even if the odds were impossible. If he lost, at least people would know that humans were not afraid to face their enemies. The night before the tournament, Alex could not sleep. He lay in his bed thinking about everything that had led to this moment. He thought about his family back on Earth who were proud of him for getting into the academy. He thought about all the human students who were counting on him to prove they belonged here. He thought about every species in the galaxy who would be watching to see what humans were really made of. Alex was not the strongest or fastest student at the academy. He could not lift as much weight as a Brutari or run as fast as a Thrixian. But he had something that many of the other species had forgotten about during their thousands of years of space travel. He had the human ability to adapt and overcome any challenge through intelligence and determination. Tomorrow, General Valdrin would learn what that meant. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see what happened when you underestimated a human who had nothing left to lose. Tomorrow, everything would change. Alex finally fell asleep with a smile on his face. He was not afraid anymore. He was ready. The main arena was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Representatives from the Coalition Council sat in the special viewing boxes high above the fighting floor. Military officers from dozens of worlds filled the lower seats. Students from every species at the academy crowded together in the upper sections. Everyone had come to see the human who was stupid enough to challenge General Valdrin. Alex walked into the arena wearing standard academy training clothes. His outfit looked plain and simple compared to what everyone else was wearing. The alien students had on their ceremonial gear with bright colors and special symbols. Even the human students were dressed better than Alex, but he had chosen his clothes for a reason. He needed to move freely and quickly. General Valdrin entered from the opposite side of the arena. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. He wore his full ceremonial armor, which made him look even bigger and more dangerous than usual. The armor was dark blue with silver decorations that caught the lights. His 4 arms moved in practiced combat forms as he acknowledged his supporters in the crowd. The size difference between the two fighters was shocking. Valdrin stood 9 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. His arms were thicker than Alex's legs. His chest was broader than Alex's entire body. The contrast was so extreme that several coalition representatives questioned whether the fight should be allowed to continue. Academy Commandant Reeves explained the rules over the arena's sound system. This was a demonstration bout with victory, conditions based on successful technique rather than injury or knockout. Full contact was permitted, and fighters would continue until one could no longer compete or chose to surrender. Medical teams were standing by on all sides of the combat area. Alex looked up at the crowd and saw thousands of eyes staring down at him. Most showed curiosity about what would happen to the small human. Some showed pity. A few showed anger that he was wasting everyone's time with this pointless display. In the human section, he saw his friends looking worried and scared for him. General Valdrin raised his forearms to get the crowd's attention. He spoke in his grinding voice that carried clearly through the arena's speakers. He said this would be a quick lesson about the natural order of things. He said some species were born to rule while others were born to serve. He said humans would learn their proper place in the galaxy today. The crowd cheered louder as Valdrin finished his speech. He turned to face Alex with a look of contempt and amusement. This was going to be easy for him. One quick strike would end the fight and send the human to the medical bay. Then everyone would see that humans had no business trying to be warriors. Commandant Reeves activated the combat timer and stepped back to the edge of the arena. The fight was officially started. Valdrin began moving toward Alex with slow, confident steps. He was in no hurry because he knew the outcome was already decided. This was just a formality before he claimed his easy victory. Alex stood perfectly still in the center of the arena. He did not take a fighting stance or raise his hands to defend himself. He just watched Valdrin approach while breathing slowly and steadily. To the crowd, it looked like the human was frozen with fear. Some aliens started laughing and pointing at the terrified little creature. Valdrin reached Alex and stopped just outside arm's reach. He said something quietly that only Alex could hear. Then he raised his upper right arm and struck Alex across the face with a casual backhand slap. The blow had enough force behind it to knock down most beings in the galaxy. The sound of the impact echoed through the silent arena. Alex staggered backward 3 steps from the force of the hit. His head snapped to the side and he nearly lost his balance. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. For a moment, it looked like the fight was already over, before it had really begun. General Valdrin turned toward the crowd, with all 4 arms raised in premature victory. He had barely used any effort to strike the human, and already the pathetic creature was bleeding and stumbling. This was exactly what he had expected. The crowd began to cheer again as Valdrin basked in their approval. But something was wrong. Alex had not fallen down like he was supposed to. Instead, he was standing up straight and wiping the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. When he looked up at the general, there was something in his expression that made Valdrin's celebration falter. Alex was smiling. Not the forced smile of someone trying to hide pain or fear. Not the nervous smile of someone who knew they were about to lose. This was the genuine smile of someone who was exactly where they wanted to be. It was the smile of someone whose plan was working perfectly. The crowd fell silent as they realized something had changed. This human was not acting like a victim anymore. The way he stood, the way he moved, the way he looked at the massive alien warrior in front of him had completely transformed. Suddenly, General Valdrin did not look quite as confident as he had a moment before. Valdrin tried to recover his composure and turned back to face Alex. He raised his arms again to finish what he had started. But now there was something different about the human's posture and positioning. Alex had shifted his weight and changed his stance in subtle ways that made Valdrin hesitate for just a fraction of a second. That hesitation was all Alex needed. In that moment of uncertainty, he saw his opening and knew it was time to act. Everything he had learned and planned and prepared for came down to the next few seconds. The crowd held its breath as Alex moved forward to meet his opponent. What happened next would be talked about and analyzed for generations to come. Military academies across the galaxy would study the recordings of this fight to understand how it was possible. But for now, in this moment, only 2 beings in the arena knew what was about to happen. General Valdrin was about to learn that there were many different kinds of strength in the universe. He was about to discover that size and power meant nothing against an opponent who understood exactly how to use them against you. Most importantly, he was about to find out why you should never underestimate a human who has had time to think and plan and prepare. The fight that everyone expected to last 30 seconds was about to end in 4 seconds, but it was not going to end the way anyone thought it would. Alex moved like lightning. While General Valdrin was still turning back to face him, Alex launched himself forward in a low, fast sprint. He had studied the general's movements for months, and knew exactly how long it would take the big alien to react. Valdrin was strong and dangerous, but he was also slow to change direction once he started moving. The first target was Valdrin's left knee. All bipedal species had the same basic weakness at the joint where their upper and lower leg bones met. No matter how thick their skin or how strong their muscles, the nerve cluster behind the knee was always vulnerable. Alex's strike hit the exact spot with perfect timing and maximum force. Valdrin's left leg buckled immediately. The massive general stumbled forward as his nervous system sent emergency signals to his brain. He tried to catch himself with his forearms, but his balance was already gone. The crowd gasped as they watched the unstoppable Zephyrian warrior suddenly look clumsy and off balance. Alex flowed into his second attack without stopping. As Valdrin leaned forward from his damaged leg, his lower torso was exposed. Alex's elbow found the pressure point where the general's lower set of arms connected to his body. This nerve junction controlled the movement of both arms at once, and when Alex hit it just right, both of Valdrin's lower arms went numb and useless. Now the general was down to 2 working arms and 1 working leg. He tried to turn and grab Alex with his remaining functional limbs, but the human was already moving to his third and final target. Alex had learned from his biology studies that all Zephyrians had a critical nerve cluster at the base of their skull, where it met their thick neck. Alex's final strike was the most precise of all. Using his knuckles like a surgical instrument, he hit the exact spot that would disrupt Valdrin's motor control and balance center. The general's remaining arms flailed wildly as his nervous system tried to compensate for the systematic shutdown of his combat effectiveness. General Valdrin crashed to the arena floor with a sound like thunder. His massive body hit the reinforced surface so hard that cracks appeared in the metal plating. The impact echoed through the silent stadium as 400 pounds of military authority writhed in agony on the ground. The screaming started immediately. Valdrin's nervous system was flooding his brain with pain signals from 3, precisely, targeted nerve clusters. His body was trying to move in different directions at the same time. Every muscle was either completely numb or burning with electric fire. He had never felt anything like this in his entire life. The silence in the arena was complete except for the general's cries of pain. 3,000 beings from 40 different species stared in absolute shock at the impossible scene before them. The strongest warrior at the academy was helpless on the ground, defeated by the weakest student in less time than it took to blink. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor with scanners and emergency equipment. Their instruments confirmed what everyone could see but nobody could believe. Alex had caused no permanent damage to the general, but every pain receptor in Valdrin's body was screaming at maximum intensity. The precise strikes had overloaded his nervous system without actually injuring any vital organs. Alex stood calmly in the center of the arena while the medical teams worked. He showed no signs of celebration or triumph. His breathing was steady and his expression was neutral. When Commandant Reeves declared him the winner of the demonstration bout, he simply nodded and walked toward the exit without saying a word. As Alex left the arena, the implications of what everyone had witnessed began to sink in. This had not been luck or a lucky accident. Every movement had been calculated and planned. The human had allowed himself to be struck first, using that moment to study his opponent's exact position and timing before responding with surgical precision. In the days that followed, investigators discovered the truth about Alex's preparation. He had spent months learning the biological weaknesses of every major species in the coalition. While other students focused on traditional strength training, he had been developing techniques that turned size and power into disadvantages. What they had seen was not just one human beating one alien. It was proof of humanity's greatest weapon, their ability to think and adapt. The tournament continued for the rest of the week, but everything had changed. Human students were no longer dismissed or ignored by their alien classmates. Other species approached them with respect and curiosity, wanting to understand the techniques that had brought down their most feared instructor. The humans won several individual events and placed third overall in the team competition. General Valdrin returned to duty after 3 days in the medical bay. His body had recovered completely from the nerve strikes, but his attitude toward all students had changed forever. He still believed in strength and discipline, but He had learned that intelligence and preparation were just as important as physical power. He never again spoke about humans being weak or inferior. The story of the 4-second fight spread throughout the galaxy faster than any official report. Military academies on dozens of worlds requested copies of the arena recordings. Alex's techniques became required study for officers of all species. The Coalition's training programs were restructured to emphasize intelligence and adaptability, alongside traditional combat skills. Alex graduated at the top of his class 2 years later. He was offered positions with elite military units from several species, but he chose to become an instructor at the academy. His courses on tactical thinking and biological warfare became the most popular classes at the school. Students of every species wanted to learn from the human who had changed everything. The academy installed a memorial plaque in the main arena to commemorate the fight. It did not mention names or species, but simply said, "True strength comes in many forms. Never underestimate an opponent who has had time to think." Every new class of students walked past that plaque on their first day and wondered what it meant. Years later, when Alex was asked about that day, he would always give the same answer. He said the fight was not about proving that humans were better than anyone else. It was about proving that being different did not mean being less than everyone else. Every species had unique strengths and weaknesses. The key was learning how to use what you had to overcome what you faced. The galaxy was a big place with room for many different kinds of warriors. Some fought with strength, some with speed, some with technology. Humans fought with their minds, and that made them just as dangerous as anyone else. General Valdrin had learned that lesson the hard way, but it was a lesson that needed to be taught. Alex Carter became a legend at the Academy and throughout the Coalition fleet. But more importantly, he opened doors for every human who came after him. He proved that humanity belonged among the stars, not as servants or subjects, but as equals who had earned their place through courage and intelligence. The 4 seconds that changed everything became a symbol of human potential. It showed the galaxy that Earth's children were ready to take their place as full members of the galactic community. They would never be the biggest or strongest species, but they would always find a way to succeed through determination and clever thinking. That was the human way, and now everyone knew it.